Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel Trading Secrets. This channel is for entertainment purposes only. For those of you who do not know, my name is Ali. I have over 20 years experience teaching accounting, economics, business and law. Through this channel I'll be providing some stock analysis and a quick update on the $1 Million Challenge. So if anybody's not aware of this is a journey of investment of $1,000 to a return of $1 million over a period of 3 years using a strategy called compound return investing. So the objective is try to get 201 trades, each with an average return of 3.5%. It's not 201 consecutive trades. We do take into account losses. So for further details about how to join us for less than $9 a month, information is available in the description below. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into Richard Hoffman's second amended complaint against FINRA, the DTCC and also Fidelity, and this is now in the federal court, so stay tuned for that. Before we get started, let's have a quick look at what's happening in the market. So in terms of the economic calendar this week, if we have a look at the dates, I think the key one that most of us will be watching will be Thursday and Friday. So we have the jobless claims Thursday, and on Friday we have the US monthly jobs report. I think both of them will be key for the market. We now have a look at earnings. In terms of earnings here, again a big week for earnings, but some of the ones that we will be looking at in the Discord includes ticker symbol SECIEN, DKS, CRWD, and I think I do expect those to be earnings. So hopefully positive news. Let's now start by having a look at the second amended complaint from Richard Hoffman. So this is now in the federal court, and we can see on the screen here the left hand side is the first complaint and on the right hand side is the second amended complaint. So this is still for declaratory relief. It's for federal securities law violations. It's also for federal racketeering and also accounting, and it's still against Fidelity, the DTCC and FINRA. So we're going to go ahead and look at some of the key points and differences that I have picked up. But again, just before I make a start on this, another reminder, this is not legal advice. This is just my interpretation and opinion. So again, go ahead and watch Richard's video and read the filing yourself as well for your own interpretation. But I'm going to present my opinion on this now, and I think it's very, very positive. So first thing I've picked up here is there's now additional focus on illegal short shares and their location. So if we have a look at the filing here, on the left hand side we can see it states under section 1, it just finishes by saying of MMTLP positions and shares, but on the right hand amended version I can see what Richard has added is now added as the number of illegal short shares and their current location. So that's great emphasis on illegal shares, because that is a key complaint in this play. So I'm now going to move on to points number 2 and 3. So first of all, number 2 here, what I've stated is defendants have not delivered anything of value and moreover have sought to cover the up. So if we have a look on the right hand side, so highlighted in yellow are the key points that I've picked up that have been added. So first of all, it states here, Fidelity with the assistance of other named defendants and does not to be named later and have not delivered such securities or anything of value despite being paid for same. Moreover, collectively and individually, they have sought to cover up and hide the intentional misconduct that has occurred within. So very strong language there, and it also goes on to say includes but is not limited to FINRA apparently backdating the purported deletion of MMTLP to the 13th of December 2023. Sorry, I think that should say 2022, when the deletion code was deceptively and intentionally first presented on the 16th of the February 2023, in addition to illegally permitting the trading of MMTLP in the first place despite relying on the false, obviously the false documents. And furthermore, in section B it states plaintiff is informed and believes, so remember the plaintiff is Richard Hoffman, alleges that the defendants, these are the three alleged people who have been accused, DTCC, FINRA and Fidelity, engaged in and or aided and abetted money laundering and tax evasion. So strong accusation there. Knowingly either permitted the trading of or brokered or settled transactions involving naked and illegal short shares such as MMTLP and MMAT. So bringing in MMAT as well into this, because obviously there is a link here. And let's now have a look at point number 3. Defendants engaged in money laundering and tax evasion. So again, this is an addition. So if we have a look at this section here highlighted in yellow where Richard talks about this, the proceeds should have been in the coffers of the United States, lowering borrowing costs for the economy and decreasing taxes. So that affects every single person in the country because obviously it's an allegation of stealing and harming you as a citizen and as a member of the population of the United States. Moreover, shares held by Fidelity on the behalf of the defendant cannot be validly transferred to any designated transfer agent, AST, per the S1 filing. That is something that we were promised, and currently and for all purposes are dead and valueless. So again, this, as far as I'm concerned, is the truth. I'd now like to move on to points number 4 and 5. So first of all, point number 4 that I picked up: defendants attempt to shield criminal misconduct by making arbitrations private. So let's have a look at this here. So on the right hand side in the amended version, point number 6, it states here that there is an incestuous relationship that exists between the so-called regulatory bodies and the financial institutions, hedge funds and market makers, clearing firms, etc. And furthermore, it states defendants further attempted to shield their criminal and tortious misconduct by making such arbitrations private and not transmissible live or via video to the public. So again, strong allegations there of secrecy. We know that we have not been getting any information from these defendants whatsoever. But if we have a look at number 5, I've highlighted that in yellow because I think this is could potentially be a golden nugget from Richard in terms of something that he's not sharing right now, but he could share this at a later date to obviously spring a surprise. But it states here in number 5, there are additional defendants unknown that will be added as discovery produces more facts. So Richard is not adding them now, but he is ready to add them later. So let's see where we pick this up. So if we go on here on the right hand side, remember the amended version, left hand side is the first version. So highlighted in yellow, it says amongst all defendants herein, there are additional defendants currently unknown that will be added as discovery produces more facts. So obviously Richard does have more aces up his sleeve. He's not playing his cards now. So again, a great strategy there. And moving on to number 8, further, they are sold and traded illegal short shares that did not even exist, that they borrowed from MMTLP shareholders. So that's me, you and everybody else, holding long positions without knowing consent to directly reduce the value of such long positions and a direct conflict of interest and contrary to the laws protecting naked short selling. So the defendants worked in a collaborative enterprise to shield the group from liability, financially benefiting the collective group by continuing the cycle of naked and illegal shorting. So this actually reminds me of an organization similar to a cartel where they're all working together for personal gain. So again, there is strong evidence to suggest this. Let's now have a look at point number 6. So point number 6 here states that claims arising out of securities violations as to the trading of naked shorts, racketeering, tax evasion and money laundering. So the changes made in the second complaint here on the right hand side, it states first claim for relief, declaratory relief. Previously it was first cause of action for declaratory relief. And point number 15, it states, again, this is something added in as well. The claim arises out of securities violations as to the trading of naked short shares, racketeering violations, and the aiding and abetting of tax evasions and money laundering. Point number 7 that I picked up here is defendants were aware on no later than the 5th of December that MMTLP would not trade after the 8th of December and suppress such information. So in other words, kept it to themselves, did not share it publicly, and obviously the assumption is took advantage of it. So it states here on the right hand side, this is under section 16, it was represented on or about December 2022 through FINRA approved corporate action notices that MMTLP would trade on the 9th of December and the 12th of December. So FINRA stated this to close positions, etc., where there were unaccounted for unavailable illegal short shares and very high demand. We know there was huge demand if the rules of trading were followed, but this did not trade and it did not happen. Plaintiff is informed and believes that defendants were aware no later than 5th of December that MMTLP would not trade after the 8th of December. So nobody else knew. We didn't know, but obviously it looks like the defendants did know, but intentionally suppressed such information. So again, this should not have happened. So in point number 8 here, what I've stated is that defendants suppressed and concealed the existence of illegal short sales, thereby diluting plaintiff interest, facilitating tax evasion and money laundering for personal gain. So if we have a look at the section in the filing here, this is identified under section 23 on the right hand side. Highlighted in yellow, it states they suppressed and concealed the existence of illegal short sales, thereby diluting plaintiff interest. That is obviously Richard, and obviously by implication us as well. Facilitating tax evasion, money laundering by those holding non-existent short positions. The plaintiff is informed, so Richard is informed and believes that all of this was done for the defendant's personal gains and other benefits. So obviously the brokers benefited, the hedge funds benefited. We know that FINRA is obviously funded by the brokers and dealers, so obviously there's strong implications that they benefited as well, yes. And number 9 that I've highlighted here is also, I think, is an interesting one. So I've highlighted that in yellow, and it states here, plaintiff asserts a violation of the Exchange Act, section 10B. Let's have a look at, first of all, where this is identified in the filing. So on the right hand side, main heading at the top, second claim for relief securities fraud. Section 36, plaintiff asserts a violation of the Exchange Act and specifically violations of sections 10B. So we're going to have a look at that now. So this is a great addition to this filing and complaint by Richard. So if we have a look at here, details about the Exchange Act, section 10B on the screen here, you'll be able to see that it states here, securities fraud refers to the practice of intentionally inducing investors. So that's everybody who invested in MMTLP. Many people wanted to sell on the final 2 days. Many investors did not want to hold for Nexbridge. They wanted to sell. So obviously that's intentionally inducing investors to make purchases of sale decisions about a security on the basis of false or misleading information. So that certainly fits what happened to us. Federal laws prohibit a manipulative or deceptive tactic in the purchase or sale of a security, which is MMTLP, whether or not the security is registered for sale on a public exchange. So now it's over to the judge. Is that judge going to look at this section B of the Exchange Act and make a clear decision that this was a law that was broken? States here, as a result of the actions of the defendants, the plaintiff has suffered monetary losses, which is obviously financial losses, suffered emotional distress, and I think every single investor of MMTLP has suffered emotional distress on varying degrees, and spent, obviously Richard has spent hundreds of hours to ascertain the nature of the fraud. So again, that's a huge time implication there. So in the filing here at the bottom, it states, as a result of the actions of the defendants and each of them, the plaintiff has suffered monetary losses according to the proof, has suffered emotional distress, and has spent hundreds of hours trying to ascertain the nature of the fraud that has been perpetrated. The concealed facts have been placed the plaintiff in the position he is today, where he has been financially harmed, and I think that obviously applies to each and every single MMTLP investor. And the next point, point number 11, I think is also a very interesting point, and it states here, in this action in federal court, the plaintiff is only seeking relief for federal securities violations, and also violations of the Exchange Act 10B, which we've looked at, but there's also an additional law here, which is the Exchange Act 10B5. So first of all, before we look at the law, let's have a look at section 30 on the right, which is the addition added in by Richard, and it states, in this action, the federal court plaintiff is seeking relief for the federal securities violations of the Exchange Act, and specifically 10B and 10B Part 5. So if we have a look at here from Investopedia, section 10B Part 5 is formally known as the employment of manipulative and deceptive practices. So obviously we're looking at the 1934 Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. It's a rule targeting securities fraud. So the two rules are related, 10b-5 Part 1, 10b-5 Part 2. They were issued in 2000 to create more legal perspectives regarding securities fraud. So it covers insider trading, which occurs when confidential information is used to manipulate the market in one's favour. So the hedge funds obviously certainly benefited, the broker-dealers allegedly benefited, we know the defendants benefited here, and outlining ways for insiders to proactively avoid the appearance of insider trading took effect here February 27th, 2023. So we're looking at in terms of MMTLP. Did they know about the halt? Were they aware, and did they use this information financially, obviously from a point of view of manipulation, to their own financial gain? So one other thing I'd also like to add on to this section 10b Part 5 is first of all, in terms of the hedge funds who were shorting the stock, if they knew about the U3 halt, then obviously that does explain in terms of what happened. But if they were not aware, then I think they would have been desperate to cover. And the other thing also to note is, why were the brokers and dealers not forcing them to cover, and why were they not forcing on their behalf and closing out their positions? So the only explanation, as far as I'm concerned, is they knew trading was going to stop, and there was going to be a U3 halt, so they didn't need to take the action according to the laws to force them to cover. So number 12 here is the claim for relief, and on the filing on the right hand side, the change is third claim for relief, civil RICO. On the left hand side, it was third cause of action for civil RICO. So the next point, point number 13, it states here, specific conduct harmed the plaintiff and all US taxpayers, not limited to MMTLP. So that's every single person in the United States was harmed. So let's have a look at the explanation for this. On the right hand side, under section 44, we can see the specific conduct at issue was the hiding of the existence of illegal MMTLP and other securities short shares, the enabling of market makers, hedge funds to evade taxes. So if they pay taxes, that benefits the country, that benefits the economy, and that benefits you. And other security short shares, the enabling of market makers, hedge funds to evade taxes, launder money to the harm of the plaintiff and to the harm of US taxpayers, but not limited to MMTLP. There was also unauthorized dilution of the value of the MMTLP shares sold to the plaintiff in December 2022. The defendants and each of them fraudulently facilitated tax evasion by not requiring short positions to close their positions, by not reporting short positions that have been transferred offshore, so overseas, and by permitting the illegal transfer of illegal short shares to zombie entities and did not trade and really did not function as viable entities. So we know there was a huge amount of discrepancies on the last day of trading, huge amount of synthetic shares, and lots of manipulation, but no explanation. And the final 2 points, number 14 and 15. 14, plaintiff is entitled to triple damages, and 15 is obviously the date, which is now, the second filing is dated February the 26th. So let's have a look at, first of all, section 44 on the right hand side, and the addition here is according to proof and is entitled to treble damages. So that wasn't added on previously in the first filing, and now if we have a look at the other common thing here, prayer for relief, again that's no change there, so that was also covered in the previous video, so I'm not going to go through that again. And finally here, in terms of the left hand side, we had the date February the 1st 2023. We now have February the 26th 2023, and I think I'm quite hopeful that we should get an update from this, hopefully from Richard, fairly soon. And finally, if anybody would like to get our next weekly watch list, which is going to be made available prior to trading on the Monday, this is exclusively available to members of the Discord. If you can certainly join us, details are in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned.